This special board meeting of the Board of Education for May 20th, 2020 is called to order. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to consider complaint number 2020-06 lodged by Mr. and Mrs. Macon against Board Chair Amy Constam. Board Policy 4.50.032P sets forth the specific procedure for a resolution of complaints against board members. The policy states, board members are volunteers serving in an elected capacity and are accountable to the citizens in the Portland Public Schools District for their actions and policy positions. Complaints related to ethics violations or violations of the law against the board chair should be made to the board vice chair or chairs, who will refer these issues to appropriate governmental jurisdictions or a third party for investigation. If a majority of the board approves of the referral, will refer these issues to appropriate governmental jurisdictions or a third party if a majority of the board approves of the referral. If a third party investigates a complaint after receiving the results of the investigation, the board shall decide within 30 days in open session what action, if any, is warranted, unquote. Board members, tonight you will consider the Macon's complaint number 5. This complaint alleges that Chair Constam did not fulfill her responsibility to educate herself on the materials related to their first complaint, which was considered by the board on December 17, 2019. Prior to this meeting, you received a number of materials to inform your deliberations, including a copy of the original complaint and links to 2 videos. At the end of our discussions, you'll be asked to determine if there is an ethics or legal violation that should be reported to a government agency, or if the complaint requires an outside independent investigator. Whether the board votes to refer the allegations to an external agency or investigator or not to refer the allegations, that will be the final decision of the board on this complaint. If the board decides to refer the allegations for other third-party investigations, additional action by the board may be necessary. Chair Constam is not allowed to vote on this resolution. So we had been told by the Macons, who were notified of this meeting, that they were choosing not to participate, but that Ms. Macon would be monitoring the meeting online. And I know that she is online now, so I just want to make sure that if she wishes, she has the opportunity to address the board.
I appreciate that, Rita. Thank you. I'd just like to briefly re-encapsulate the complaint that we have. I know it sounds like you guys just got the copy of the complaint again. And did you say 2 videos, Ms. Rita?
Yes, two videos, the video of the board meeting and the video of the chant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's just basically when we were at home watching the board meeting and heard that her statement of it was an outburst, it was not organized, that just really struck us to the core of, it was clear to me, I don't see how you could watch the video of the students and say that was an outburst, which you guys have all seen the video now. And as well, the complaint contains the email from Principal Kiefer where he acknowledges he was aware some sort of rehearsed thing was going to be presented. So to me, that just struck me as not only a board member not preparing for a vote, but the actual chair of the board not preparing. And then on top of not preparing, speaking out and interrupting someone who had prepared themselves. Thank you, Director Brim-Edwards, for being aware of specifically what had happened. So that was our complaint, that if you are in a position of power as the leader of a board, it's really incumbent upon you to be so prepared and then also not to speak out either ill-informed or presenting something that you know to be false. So that just struck us as our due process to go through the process of a complaint and have someone speak out in such a way just seems incredibly egregious to us. So we thank you guys for taking the time to come around again and consider this situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions for Mrs. Macon?
Mrs. Macon, this is Director Lowry, and I read in the email that Chair Constam had sent you is that her what she is clarifying that her intention was to say that the administration hadn't organized the chant. And was your sense that her statement was about the administration or the students when she spoke up at the board meeting?
Well, what I can hear in the video in the board meeting is her saying it was like an outburst and something about it was not organized. So to me, that word outburst sounds like, and I believe someone else, that we've been hearing other people trying to recharacterize it as, quote, spontaneous.
Right. And if you watch the video, you can tell it's even choreographed with the way they hit the drums, but or the buckets. But I think what Chair Constam has said is she was saying it wasn't that she was trying to clarify that it wasn't, when Director Burm Edwards was speaking, it wasn't the principal who had organized it. I think that's the place that, so if that was her intent to say it wasn't the administration that organized it, do you feel like the administration did organize it, or do you feel like it was the bucket drummer people that organized it?
I don't believe the principal organized that chant, but I believe that he knew something was coming. And it seems to me that then, as the leader of the school, who knows something is going to publicly happen, that he needs to figure out what it is and take responsibility for that, not to be like, oh, whatever, some little thing is stirring up over here, I'll just let it play out, when it involves children and the families in the community. So yeah, I don't believe he directed them. I don't think he helped them, let's brainstorm some lyrics. But I believe he knew something was happening, and he admitted he knew something was happening. It's his responsibility then to figure that out.
And so when Chair Constam emailed you all and said, this is what I intended to communicate, did you feel that it didn't sound like that to you? How did you respond to that? Because I read her email to you all when she said, what I was trying to say was it wasn't organized by the principal.
Yeah, her email came across as splitting hairs, and it still didn't really ring true with what actually seemed to have happened.
Thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate you taking the time tonight.
Thank you for asking thoughtful questions. I appreciate that too.
Any other questions?
I just following up. Hi, this is Andrew. Following up on Director Lowry's comments, and thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Macon. I also included, and I appreciate that distinction because I had a very similar comment. Also included in Director Constam's email to you was an apology, and again, as I read it at the time when we got it, and then just reread it in preparation for this, but sort of noting that she's sorry that the remark during the board session prior to the vote on the point led you to believe she wasn't prepared, and sorry that it hurt you. And I will say that I took that as a sincere sort of effort to again sort of address what was said and how you heard it and how that might have. That absolutely could have been hurtful, and I guess sort of a similar question is how did you receive that apology?
Thank you. That's another good question. The apology, I mean, I appreciate the effort to reach out to us and write a lengthy email trying to get into the real specifics of what has been happening. The timing makes us think that there's just pressure behind making an email apology, and this email apology could have come a while ago. And it also came across a bit of an apology like, I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, not I'm sorry if I did something. There's many ways an apology can be phrased, and it didn't, to me, it felt more like, sorry that something's going on with you guys, but I didn't do anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess following on, because that was my question too, was how was the apology received? And I agree there's a right way to do an apology. And I was curious also how you received that. It takes a lot for people to apologize, some people more than others. And when I read it, I felt like, it was heartfelt and it was sincere. And I think maybe what you're looking for is that last piece of taking personal accountability for the actions. And I'm wondering if that were to happen now, if you would feel differently about going forward.
I think part of it is, we keep reflecting on like Colin Kaepernick and how he gets critiqued for like, now it's all about yourself. And what about the original issue with him is police violence, right? And he's fighting for his own reputation. And so then people are like, oh, you're just worried about yourself. And so I don't want this to be about, we need an apology, but it's more like what is happening at that school. And again, why is the education of Black students still so lacking? And if there's apologies written on paper or in this limited meeting with a very small number of people seeing it, like that's one thing. And heartfelt apologies are good, and I think they have a place. But what is happening to that whole community? What was stated in that public board meeting back in December was, we visited Vernon and it's a joyful learning environment. If you remember that community being like, we're tired of the Macons critiquing us, a statement like that says, we or herself as a leader of the board, things are fine at Vernon. And that's what's left publicly. So to put an apology into an email, or to do one right here now, if that's what, no one can offer that on anyone else's behalf, but to do that in a small group of people still leaves that community feeling like the board has spoken and the board has stated that things are just fine at Vernon. Although people keep saying there's work to be done, but yet very little changes are being pushed forward. So we're not looking for an apology to us. We don't need that. What we need is for concrete actions to be taken for this school. A piece of it is that they're not leaving us as these outcasts, so the community continues to think if we raise an issue, we are wrong, we're just complainers. But we want the school, we want children there to have fair education and to all the adults be held accountable. We're not doing enough. What more can we do? So I don't want to belabor an apology. That's really not that much worth our time, other than for people to say, when people complain, let's look at it instead of trying to wait months and months until maybe it'll just go away.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you, Ms. Macon, for appearing tonight and for answering questions. And so we'll now move on to Chair Constam. Will not be participating in the board's deliberations on this matter, but she is in attendance. Like the complainants, she has the right to make a brief statement if she wishes, or to answer any questions that board members may have. Director Constam, would you like to make a statement?
No, thank you. I just appreciate Ms. Macon's comments, and I know that we have a lot of efforts underway at the staff level to respond to the substance of the really important concerns that your family has raised about Vernon. And so I'm hopeful that in that process, we'll really be able to reach some agreements and a path forward about how to, in a meaningful way, improve the culture and the opportunities, especially for Black children at Vernon. So I'm hopeful about getting to that through the consideration of the other complaints that we have. Thank you.
Do board members have any questions for Chair Constam? Okay, the board will now vote on resolution number 6113
Director
to
Moore?
refer. Yes.
Director Moore, before we vote, I have something I want to say. I didn't have a comment before. I didn't have any questions, but I have something I want to say before we vote on it.
Well, I was just going to put it on the table.
Okay,
and
put it on
then
the table.
open it up
Okay,
for discussion.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounded so concluding.
Not yet. So the board will now consider resolution number 6113 to refer complaint number 2020-06, a complaint against Chair Constam, to an external agency or third party for investigation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, you're doing that on purpose to confuse me. Director Scott moves, Director Bailey seconds the motion to vote on resolution number 6113. Is there any discussion? Director Brim-Edwards?
So I guess I think the first thing I would just say, just pivoting back to Barb Makeham's comments about this may not be a satisfactory forum. And I think this is, a casualty of the COVID era in which this is the public forum that we have available to us. So, and I realize it's not the same as one of our regular board meetings, but it is what we have at this time. So I want to say that our policy, which on complaints, which I support, directs that if a complaint is filed against a board member, that the board's role is to refer the complaint to an external agency, and I think that's the right approach. And I was on the committee, I chaired the committee when we wrote the complaint, and I still think that's the right approach. Before speaking to the referral, I wanted just to speak to the underlying event. When we received the complaint in July of 2019, there was a reference in the complaint to a video, but they mentioned that they weren't going to include it because it portrayed students in a negative light. They did say if we needed to see it, that it was available. And when I was looking at the back and forth between the district staff in the complaint and appeal process, it seemed like the video was a significant, piece of the conversation and part of the substance of the complaint. So I asked to see the video. And when we got to the meeting in December, when we voted on the complaint, I took an opportunity to discuss a number of issues that the Makins had raised about the complaint process, about the achievement data that had been shared, about representation in after-school clubs. And at the end, I talked about the need for an apology to the Makins as they'd been the target of the chant at the school assembly. I didn't have any information other than the video, the background information about it. So I focused not on who organized the chant or implied the principal organized or improved it, but I was really trying to focus on, I think, the harm that happened by having been at a school assembly, and that I tried to put myself in place of a parent in that situation if I had been the target of a chant at a school assembly. So my comments at the time were really focused on that the district, that the lyrics didn't meet, the fact that the district asked for the lyrics to be changed, and to me implied that they didn't meet the district standards. I talked about it being done in a district forum, and I was sorry that that happened because the district shouldn't be any party to disrespect or negativity to a parent. And I also said that it wasn't scripted or acknowledged or given approval by the district, but it happened in the district forum, and I believe the complainant deserved an apology. And I do want to acknowledge, because this didn't happen in a public forum either, but in a follow-up email or communications to the Makins for the district, after that, the district sent a letter to the Makins and said this about the events at the assembly. Quote, school and district leaders are responsible for the activities that occur in our buildings and school sites and for ensuring that inappropriate incidents are not repeated. PPS believes this type of student behavior is unacceptable, and we apologize for this disrespectful action. It went on to say, these are not actions that PPS condones or encourages, and we are sincerely sorry that you and your family had to experience this. End of quote. So again, that didn't occur in a public meeting, but it was conveyed, and I want just for the record to show that the district did acknowledge that that should not have happened in a school assembly. So I want to thank PPS for expressing that. and then Director Constam also for your follow-up email. To the complaint process, the complaint process isn't a judicial process. We have a policy framework that complies with the state statute. District and the district staff, the superintendent, community members, and parents often bring additional information into the formal complaint process. Each board member brings their own set of experiences and expertise, as well as information not only contained in the complaints and the responses, but also from external sources. Neither our policy nor law dictate that board members prepare in a particular way. The issue of preparation and approach by public officials for issues that we'll vote on issues they'll vote on is relevant for most public legislative bodies. And having been around public legislative bodies for 30 years, I can say that the public might expect or want public officials to prepare in a certain way, that there aren't any legal requirements, and we all do it in our own unique way. And I think, you know, the way in which we prepare brings a richness and diversity to our discussions, because we all are bringing our own lived experiences and different expertise and information. So for those reasons, I don't believe this meets the standard of a referral to an external agency. So I'm not going to be supporting of the referral. I do want to just, I guess, close by just once again extending an apology to you, Barb, and to Ephraim for the incident occurred and the harm it caused, and acknowledge that as part of this process, including the first complaint, that the district made a number of commitments of things that we as a district were going to do, and I hope that we follow through and expect that we would follow through on those. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
So this is Scott. So I want to say I agree with what Julia said. I don't think this rises to the need to be referred. Clearly, at least some of the way that Director Constam or Board Chair Constam spoke at the board meeting did not match what actually happened. And I can understand how that felt really bad to you, Barb, and your husband. And it's clear we still have some things to work out through this whole process, both on that personal level and also with Vernon School, and really with a lot of our schools. But I don't think this rises to the case where we need to refer it.
Rita, you're muted.
Sorry. I'm going to repeat what I said. Is there any further discussion? Okay. We will now vote on resolution number 6113. And I just want to read the resolution language so that everybody understands what they're voting for. The Board of Education will refer the allegations against Chair Constam to an external agency or third party for investigation. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes. All opposed, please indicate by saying no.
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 Are there any abstentions? Okay, resolution number 6113 fails by a vote of 0 to 6. Thank you all. This meeting is now adjourned.